Martin, you're on the air. Martin.
Yes.
So, Martin, we're talking about MGTOW in Asia and talking about, well, positives and negatives of being in a relationship. Um, but before we get into that, yeah, let's talk about your let's talk about your experiences between well, earlier this decade, let's just say.
Yes. In the context of the good and the bad.
Yes.
Well, look, I mean, there's pros and cons of both, like everything in life. I mean, on paper, in those early part of this decade, I had it all.
You did.
In terms of numbers. And on one level, that's a very fulfilling existence in of its own right. But on another level, doesn't always lead to happiness. James.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't, does it?
I know your comments. No, sorry, James, go on.
Yeah, so I was going to say, did you find it inhibited your ability to date women if you were not straight up with them about your intentions?
Look, it varies. There was a certain type of person who, didn't make any difference whatsoever.
Yeah. The type of women that you were, well, I'm not even going to call it dating. The kind of women that you were getting with, were
Yes.
they, okay, like what was the proportion of them that were looking for, a simp,
Well, a lot of them would say that they wanted, and these were women who were doctors, lawyers, accountants, who on paper had their life very well together.
Yeah.
They would maintain that, they wanted long-term marriage, kids, white picket fence.
But
their actions didn't always measure up to that, in the sense of, they would always swear off short term and say, I'm not sleeping with you anymore, yet invariably would be back for more.
yeah, and do you think that was sort of their sexual marketing to you? Like, they would...
Who knows? To be honest, I think they were just a bit messed up, those ones.
So they were the kind of the girls that were damaged goods.
Yeah, yes, and I know you had some experiences which were similar.
Yeah, but we're talking about you here, Martin.
No, unfortunately, I am now actually at my next business meeting, so I do have to head off and take care of some business matters. But I would perhaps enjoy continuing this line of discussion in our next episode.
Yeah, no, but generally they fell into two categories. There were the damaged goods girls that you would, fuck on the first date, and then there were those girls who were more, would kind of reel you into an LTR type situation. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, there are probably a few other categories as well, which we could go into at a later stage, perhaps.
Yeah. Well, I generally found there were that kind. There were those girls that would sleep with you and never see you ever again. They literally just wanted to, get their
Yes.
jollies. Then there were those who would, kind of creep into your life. They wouldn't push
Yes.
for commitment, but sure enough, slowly but surely, their stuff began turning up in my apartment.
Yes, definitely.
You know what I mean? And
Definitely.
they would slowly
I do.
try and
Do.
turn up, and then there were those that would be upfront. You know, I'm not that kind of girl stuff. You know.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right, mate. I'll let you. I'll let you get to your next appointment. But
Thanks for that, James.
let me
We will
know.
talk
Let me know
soon.
how it goes, Martin.
I will. Bye bye.
Thank you. Right. So, everyone, I want to talk about an article today. Um, yeah, I want to talk about an article today which I read. It's a bit old. It's called "Four Ways to Stop Being a MGTOW," and it's from one of these, you know, PUA type websites, Return of Kings, to be specific. I may or may not include the link in the description. And it's just, you know, the PUA community talking about the MGTOW movement and why how you can stop being MGTOW, which is kind of, to my mind, condescending because it presumes that um, those of us that have chosen to go our own way haven't chosen to do so, that we're somehow here as a result of our inability to get women or pick up women or whatever, which could be nothing further from the truth. But it also shows a complete lack of understanding of, you know, the different spectrum that exists within the MGTOW community. There are those of us, I guess, at one end of the spectrum who are in long-term relationships, or could be considered what they call purple pill, who are self-aware and maybe can take steps to minimise the damage that can occur through being in such relationships. And then there obviously are those at the other end of the spectrum who swear off any kind of relationship with a woman altogether. You know, and then there are obviously those of us that are in between, that do enter into those relationships, or do sleep with women from time to time, or have some sort of relationship. So it just, yeah, it presupposes that those that are MGTOW happen to be because they think there's no other option, which could, like, there's nothing further from the truth. If you're choosing to go your own way, it's almost, I mean, it is liberating. It is a liberating thing to throw off the traditional roles which we've been assigned as men, and to go our own way, and to choose not to buy into the idea that we need to be in a relationship to somehow obtain validation from others around us or those in society. I mean, how often have you been out with your friends, you know, if you're of a certain age, and if you're not in a relationship with somebody, somehow there's something in their eyes that's wrong with you, or, you know, it's such a shame, or what a waste, or, you know, it's, do you hear people saying that about, you know, gay men, or lesbian women, you know, oh, that woman, she's a lesbian, what a waste, you know, or that man, he's gay, you know. I do hear women say that occasionally, but it's almost unacceptable. Whereas if men choose to be on their own or not commit to a woman, somehow they're deficient. So, you know, that's the premise of this article. So let me take you through. I'm not going to read it word for word, but some of the bits I've picked out. So it says, when I wrote my former article on MGTOW, I was glad to see many people saw the movement for what it was, including many former members. They realised the group was poisonous to their drive for life, and I encourage them to believe that there are many more men affiliated with MGTOW who will also realise that there is an alternative path once they're shown the way. I mean, that's kind of a ridiculous sentence. As I said at the very beginning, MGTOW is a broad church. It includes people who are in relationships, to those that choose to be, go the MGTOW monk route and not have any roots, so to speak. There are, a wide range of people, and no one owns this movement. And for anyone to try and kind of define it beyond the very broadest of ideas is to not understand what the movement is. It's not a religion. It is not a doctrine. It is not a law or anything that can be really black and white defined. That's just not what it is. So this person saying that it's poisonous to their drive for life, that's just garbage. I think, having seen relatives of mine that were MGTOW before MGTOW was a thing, those who chose not to get married, and what they've achieved in their 70 years of life, being single men, it shows that they have plenty of drive. And these are people that are multi-millionaires, people that have achieved great things. I mean, look at Tesla, for example. I mean, there are tons of videos about those out there that have been MGTOW before MGTOW existed, that demonstrate that we don't need to be in relationships to achieve things. I think certain types of human beings, they crave other. We're social beings. We need to be connected in a way to society. Most of us do, but that doesn't need to be within the context of a relationship with a woman. And we choose not to be because in most Western societies, and even beyond that, there's little gain for men in being married, with no fault divorce, and the separation of assets being in usually the woman's favour. Why would the average man choose to marry? There's nothing to be gained there. So to say that it's poisonous to a drive for life is kind of ridiculous. He goes on to say, man doesn't thrive with complacency that is indirectly, perhaps directly promoted by MGTOW. He demands more from life. Well, isn't that what we in MGTOW are saying? That we don't depend on our definition of who we are as a result of somebody else. We don't need to feel fulfilled because we've picked up and had sex with lots of women. That's not who we are. We're not defined by our ability to get or stay in a relationship. I mean, if that was the case, every time a woman left a man, he'd be crushed. And I think we all probably have learnt from maybe our first or second or first couple of relationships with women before we went our own way, that not to do that, and in a way, I suppose the whole point of the PUA community is they don't get in long-term relationships with women either. But then, how are they any different to guys who are MGTOW and do occasionally pick up or don't cohabitate but see a woman on a regular basis? I mean, how are they any different? And I don't think anyone that's MGTOW is complacent. I think it's much harder for a guy to choose to go his own way, at least initially, than it is for him to fall into the blue pill haze of what we've been conditioned to do. I think it's much harder to take the red pill. It's much harder to not conform and choose not to be in a relationship than it is to be in one. Maybe this article is talking about those that are at the real other end of the spectrum, those that choose not to be in any relationships whatsoever, or have any relationship or relations with women. But I mean, surely each to their own. it also ignores, an important part of Western culture and society when you look at history, and that is, whether we like it or not, Christianity, and in particular the Catholic Church, was a extremely important part of um, the fabric of society and what drove not just uh, cultural norms, but also other things such as science and learning. The church, I should say, uh, and universities, particularly in Western Europe, were for the large part the gatekeepers and uh, they were the font of learning in Western Europe, and the large part of why the West was successful was because of our centres of learning, which were again in many respects run, sponsored, or otherwise supported by religious organisations, particularly until the Reformation, and then even after, the Catholic Church. The point being that a lot of the people that were running those or involved in the hierarchy of those universities were clergymen. Now, of course, I'm not going to get into the whole question of celibacy and whether it's right or wrong, or I'm not really discussing religion here either. But the point is, there were many learned men who, for religious reasons, took up the vocation of the priesthood or became monks, and they were highly productive. Highly productive. They didn't have a wife or a family to consume them. They could dedicate themselves wholly to their vocation, being, serving the church, but also science and technology. I could, but I'm not going to, list a whole lot of scientific achievements that have been achieved by such men. So, and you can say the same in the East with Buddhism and other, Eastern religions. The idea of men choosing to remain celibate and in the pursuit of a higher good, something noble beyond the physical, is something that's existed for thousands of years. We're not apes, Yeah, we're definitely animals, and we have needs, but we have the ability to reason and be rational, and we can say no to our base instincts. We don't need to fuck, right? So this idea that because guys choose not to try and pick up lots of women and fuck lots of women are somehow giving up on life, that's just fucking ridiculous. There's nothing more stupid. I've never heard anything more stupid. So, yeah, that's just my view. So it goes on to give 4 reasons why to stop being MGTOW, although they don't really understand what that means. Recognise MGTOW for what it is. Well, they don't understand what it is. You must understand why MGTOW exists and what brings these men together. MGTOW may have started with the right intent of defying the gynocentric system that exploits men, but it has quickly turned into a congregation of young men who came together to validate each other's bitterness and frustration. Okay, this is just utter bullshit. Okay, it's ridiculous. This is basically saying anyone that follows MGTOW is some sort of, loser or simp that couldn't get a woman if he tried, that sits in his room and, masturbates to, anime or fucking computer games or, is a loser. I mean, it's just bullshit, right? Most guys I know that are MGTOW or follow a lifestyle broadly related to that are highly successful people. They're intelligent guys. Some of them have been married before, and some of them haven't. And all of them have one thing in common, and that is that they're successful people. Lawyers, doctors, bankers, um, and other, normal guys have achieved a lot. In my family, I can think of two that are over the age of 45. They're not young guys. Neither of them never married. And it's not because they couldn't get women. They had tons of women. But they thought that it was going to inhibit the things that they wanted to achieve. So they chose not to. This is just, you know, ridiculous, this statement. So it goes on to say the majority of MGTOW feel they need to attack anyone who suggests self-improvement because it reminds them of their own lack of effort. What a load of shit. Okay? Self-improvement? What does he mean by that? Does he mean going to the gym? Does he mean dressing well? Does he mean getting an education? He doesn't say. And then he goes on to say, and for all those cries about society shaming them, members of MGTOW are the most vitriolic group today. I don't think so. I think we know who that group is. Constantly shames on men for sharing tips on improving their lives. Yeah. So this is just dumb. I think the whole point of MGTOW is for us to rise above what society has said for us is mediocre. We don't want to be mediocre. We don't want to plug into the dialogue and the role that we think has been forced upon us, by circumstance, by accident of birth, right? We've got a dick, and therefore, we need to, get that white picket fence, get that house, get the, the bride, and pop out 2 kids and have that average job down the road and have a decent car. I mean, it's like, no, we don't want that. We don't need that. And this idea that we're living in the basement of, mum's fibro cottage, mucking around on our Xbox, and the closest we've got to a woman was, the centerfold of a Playboy, which is stuck together. This is stupid, As I said, most guys I know who are MGTOW, I mean, some people will call them players. Maybe some people even consider them PUAs, or whatever the hell they call themselves. But this is just dumb. Like, it's a broad church. Goes on to say, MGTOW also claim the group isn't about rejecting sex altogether. As soon as another man makes even the slightest effort to have a relationship with them, they go apeshit about how he's slave to pussy or a PUA loser. Many of these men have twisted worldview, where all relationship between men and women are either slavery through a marriage or a charade by men dressed like clowns who are desperate for sex. Conspiracy theories, blah, blah, blah. To escape this, men rejecting women not being rejected by them. Club inseminates damaging ideas about life and the world, blah, 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 right? Now, okay, maybe there are some extremists out there, but I don't know of any reputable MGTOWs that demand that men forswear women or going near women. I mean, that's kind of ridiculous. We all have mothers, right? Or even the idea of having children or whatever. I think the point is we're wary of getting into long-term relationships. Remember, nothing's permanent, it's just your turn. With women in those societies where even cohabitation can lead to serious legal consequences for men, and the system is skewed against men. Um, I think that's the point. Um, in some locations in the Western world, cohabitation of just 6 months is enough for one party to have a claim on the other person's assets. I mean, to me, that's insane. The fact that someone has lived with me, when I say lived with me, slept over at my place 4 nights out of 7 a week, but we haven't got married and we have only been seeing each other for a very short space of time in the scheme of an entire lifetime, gives them no right to have any sort of claim on stuff I've earned in, the 20, 30, 40, 50 years prior to that person coming into my life. Like, where's the fairness in that? Zero. And you can extend that to marriage, to actual marriage. I commit myself to you and you commit yourself to me. But we've known each other for, 2 years? But therefore, we have to pool all our assets, and you can put your hand into my pocket because we told each other we'd love each other forever. I mean, that doesn't sound like a really good idea to me, for the most part, So, and the ironic thing is, I don't see many PUAs getting married. Do you? Yeah. I just think PUAs offer kind of a pretty shallow lifestyle. They talk about MGTOW being nothing in terms of self-improvement and uplifting. I mean, I think there's a difference between picking up a girl in a bar and, achieving Zen. There's a big difference. Not that there's anything wrong with picking up girls and nothing wrong with that. So, drop the loser mentality. Stop shaming men. I don't think there's anything loser about MGTOW. Nothing. So most members of MGTOW suffer from a fixed mentality where they don't see the possibility of things getting better for themselves. Garbage. To the contrary, I think. To the contrary. By going MGTOW, we free up our options in terms of, life as a whole, because life isn't all about the whole and putting it in the whole. Knowing that withdrawal and giving up isn't an option, the best thing you can do for yourself is to strive for tangible results rather than moping about how bad the system is. That's this guy's comment. Either try and find a woman who is a wife or reject marriage and all other forms of relationship with women, but constantly reminding yourself and advertising to everyone else that you're a MGTOW is petty and unproductive. Well, okay, I think we kind of agree. I agree with that, but I don't think that's contrary to what MGTOW is. Not all women are like that. You might find that woman, but good luck. Finally, if you're MGTOW, it says taking steps towards changing your life. If your MGTOW is already keeping yourself busy with various activities, good, keep it up. But if you're the kind to trawl the internet for hours at a time looking for things to validate your beliefs, blah, blah, blah. The whole point of MGTOW is that we are striving to change our lives through taking an alternative path. So for anyone to say, it's this shaming bullshit about guys that choose not to be with women for whatever reason, either on a casual or permanent basis, somehow are inept or less of men than those that are regularly having sex. I mean, again, this is just bullshit. Just a bullshit statement. by someone that defines themselves by how many women they've slept with. I mean, you know, how old is this guy? 22, 21, 18? Is it ridiculous? Like, that's not how you define yourself as a human being. By all means, if you get off on it, go and do it. But yeah, these are just criticisms from people that really don't understand what MGTOW is.